In this video, I'm going to be telling you what I would like for my perfect camera for 2023. Join me. Roll titles. Well, hi YouTube, Brian James at Micro Four Thirds Guy with you once again, and I'm in the caravan because although I'd love to be outside doing some filming, I just cannot get sound to work at all because we have got the most horrendous winds here, and every microphone I've tried just doesn't seem to want to work. But I was thinking over the Christmas time about cameras. I haven't done a huge amount of videos over the Christmas, and I haven't done a huge amount of my singing work either. I've had a very quiet and peaceful Christmas. A lot of time for reflection, a lot of time to work out what interests me in life and what doesn't. And I've been given a lot of time to thinking over cameras. I look back over my reviews from previously in the year when I've done things like the G1, the EM5 Mark III that I've done, GX8, my EM1 Mark II, all those sort of things that I've looked at and played with over the year, my G9. But I've realised that none of them is really what is perfect for me. And I decided I would have a little bit of a wish list. I put a wish list together as to what would be my perfect Micro Four Thirds camera if I was given the ability to dictate how it's going to be done. Now, this won't suit everybody, this won't suit you, and I expect that, so don't forget, if you have different opinions on this, let me know in the comments below. I really would be interested in that. And while you're down there, just hit the subscribe and give a thumbs up if you would, because that really does help the channel and help the videos spread further and further. So, what's my perfect camera? Well, as I say, it's going to be Micro Four Thirds format. I've played with all sorts of formats in the past. I've taken photographs in all sorts of formats, but I still keep on coming back to Micro Four Thirds. After all this time, it's still my favourite format. So it would have to be a Micro Four Thirds format camera. Now, one of the advantages of Micro Four Thirds format cameras is the small size and the small weight, but I don't necessarily need the super small. So what have I been thinking of? Well, I think my perfect camera would have to be one of the rangefinder style cameras. But I don't want the super small, the GX7, the GX9. I want something like this. I want an updated version of this. This is my GX8. It's got something of a cult following a lot of the time these days because people are so desperate for them. It really is a fantastic camera, but it has its shortfalls, it has its shortcomings, and to be honest, if I could get over those shortcomings, it would be ideal for me. Why is this thing ideal for me? Well, I just love the build quality. I think the build quality, it's built like a brick. It really is. It really is a solid piece of kit. Very, very well made, beautifully finished. And I just find it a joy to use. Now, when I reviewed this in the past, and there should be a link up there somewhere about my previous link to this camera, when I put this up to my face, my nose, having rather a large proboscis, misses at the side. It doesn't get caught up on the back of the back of the display. So it actually is very, very comfortable for me. So the first thing is to have a GX8 style body, a GX8 size body. I'm quite happy with the size, quite happy with how it feels in the hand, but that would have to be my perfect Micro Four Thirds camera body size. The other thing is I want the Lumix style menus. The Lumix menus are clear, they're intuitive, they're colourful, they're very, very easy to follow. Even I know that the OM1 has done a huge amount on the menus, and I haven't had a decent chance to really look through those menus properly, but the Lumix menus and the GX8 and the G9, they're just easy to follow. I found them very, very intuitive, and I find them very, very well laid out. So my camera would have to have the Lumix style menus. But while we're talking about the body, the EVF, although it's very, very good in this camera, could be better. So I would like the EVF from the G9, which has the switch to change the magnification rate. So if you're a glasses wearer, it's ideal for you. But for me, it's absolutely superb. So I'd like the GX8 with the G9 style EVF. Now let's get into the photographic part, the sensors. Well, yes, I have a wish list, and this one isn't on the market at the moment. I would like the stacked sensor, which they have in OM1. I think that would be fantastic to have a stacked sensor in this, which would get rid of an awful lot of the sort of electronic sensor issues with me. However, I would like it to be 24 megapixel like in the GH6. So I want the Lumix resolution with the stacked sensor of the Olympus. Now, I've already said in the past that I'm not super hot on worrying about super high resolutions, But the market is leaving Micro Four Thirds behind. So I really think that it is about time we had a much higher resolution camera, but also with the stacked sensor on it. So that's the next part. Now, while we're talking sensors, we're just seeing in the imminent release at the moment of the S5 Mark II that Lumix are developing phase detect autofocus. But combined with the DFD autofocus, the DFD contrast autofocus that I already use, I would like to see that in this. I would love to see that in my ideal camera. So we have phase detect and also contrast with DFD, but where it seems to be limited on what it's doing in the S5 Mark II insofar as which mode's being used for stills and which for video, I would like to see them concentrate on both, so that whichever mode you're in, you've got the best of both worlds, the phase detect and the contrast detect with DFD. Now, speaking about the cameras itself, I think that what I really want is the stills functionality of the OM1. I think that the Olympus stills functionality, I've used both cameras, I use both brands, and I prefer the Olympus stills capacity over the Lumix one. I just find it has the edge. I love the live bulb and the live composite modes that they do on that. I love the fact that you've got the neutral density filters built into the camera, which will give you several stops of neutral density filter into the camera. I love the starry autofocus modes. I love what Olympus do with their stills functionality in their cameras. So I would like to see the Olympus stills functionality in here. But on video, I still think that Lumix have the edge, and really what I would love to see would be the video capabilities of the G9. Doesn't have to be the GH6, the G9 in this camera would be fantastic. You're getting 10-bit, you're getting high rate 4K, you're getting all the different codecs, you're getting all the different modes, the vlog modes. The only thing is, no time limits on it. I don't want a time limit on, so basically I want to be able to record in any mode unlimited. So that would be my next wish on there, the video capabilities of the G9 in here. And when we're talking about video capabilities, there's one thing which Lumix really does, and it's very, very simple. It's a straightforward thing. And I'm looking at it on this camera. I'm recording this on my G100, but the G100 and the G9 both do the same thing. As I'm recording, there's a lovely red box right the way around the border, right the way around the screen on the side here. And that easily lets me see that I'm recording. When I record on the Olympuses, they are very good, but there's a little red dot usually stuck behind the microphone lead, so you got to pull your head around just to see if you're recording and things. So I would love to see that. And the other thing I really like about this on the G100, which I'd love to see in my idealized camera, is the little countdown timer. When I do a selfie type video like this, I hit the record button and I get 3, 2, 1, and I'm into the recording. Much easier in the editing. It's there, you know what your cues are, and it's fine. Simple little software tricks, but it makes a big difference. So I'd like to see that in my idealized camera. Now, I've talked about autofocus, but also I want to talk about image stabilization. Now, the cameras themselves are fantastic, whether it's the Lumix or the Olympus. The in-body stabilization is really, really good. We're getting sort of 5.5, 6.5 stops of image stabilization on these cameras now. But there is still a difference, because for the dual stabilization, or whatever they want to call it on each brand, but basically you know what I mean, where the image stabilization in the camera, the IBIS, is working with the image stabilization in the lens to increase it. Well, if you're using Lumix, you've got to use Lumix lenses. If you're using Olympus, you've got to use certain Olympus lenses. I would like it so that we have the full 5-axis image stabilization at about 5.5 to 6.5 stops in body, but either manufacturer's lenses image stabilization would work with it. So whatever lens you got on the front, whether it's Olympus or Lumix or whatever the Micro Four Thirds lenses, if it's got image stabilization, the camera would sense it, so you're going to get dual IS irrespective of the lens and body that you're using. Now, I did mention about the video features, and there's one thing I would really love to have the capability on this camera, and that's to have the XLR1 adapter, the big adapter which fits on top of the GH5 Mark II and GH6 to give you XLR inputs onto it. I think that's a real bonus if you're doing any sort of video work. I do audio work for my singing, and I do audio work. I've done live audio work for bands and things, and the XLR, the balanced inputs, is really something of a standard. And if you've got the ability to put that on the camera, you've got the ability of fantastic sound. It needs to be the Lumix sort system for the sound, though. I The Olympus still has some problems insofar as its analog to digital converters, which doesn't tend to give them the performance of the Lumix for the sound quality. So really I want the Lumix GH5, GH6, whichever you prefer, ability to use that XLR1 adapter and to get fantastic sound with fantastic connectivity. Now while we're talking about sound, here's one I've never seen on a camera before, but I think it needs to be there. And that is Bluetooth connectivity for headphones and microphones built into the camera. You know, if I had Bluetooth connectivity to be able to connect all your devices easily, first of all, I wouldn't need a headphone socket. So the idea of having a headphone socket on the camera is redundant. You've got spare space now. But being able to get playback through Bluetooth wireless headphones is fantastic. You could use things like earpods. You could use normal sort of Bluetooth headphones. But also being able to get sound in from that would be fantastic. I could actually stick just like I do on my phone, stick my earpods in, and I've got microphones and playback audio all in one unit, nice and discreet, and wirelessly put through. It would have to be almost zero latency though. That would be the important thing, because I don't want to be doing anything in post-production trying to match up the audio to the video. But the technology's there, it just needs built into the camera. And for me, if it was only the playback ability to do wireless headphones, that would be a huge jump. So almost zero latency Bluetooth in and out preferably, but certainly as an output. And while we're talking about inputs and outputs, as I say, if you had Bluetooth connectivity, you wouldn't need a headphone jack, but I still want a normal jack. Unlike on the GX8, I want a 3.5mm input jack so that I can use my standard microphones on this straight out. This has got the 2.5. I have to use an adapter. I want a 3.5mm jack. And while we're looking down the side there, let's have a look at connections on other things as well. I want a full-size HDMI socket so that I can put full video out straight through the HDMI to a monitor, and that would be a big bonus for me, not having to use micro or mini HDMI connections. So to be able to have a full-size HDMI like on the G9 would be great. And also, please, a USB-C high power connection so that I've got fast charge and I've got all the connectivity of USB-C. That could also have the audio going out. Please put the audio out through the USB-C. There's lots of little adapters for that one. So even if you don't have the Bluetooth in there, I'm sure that it could be using an adapter. So allow the full connectivity of USB-C as a USB connection. That would be great. Now, one of the things that I really do like on video cameras is the fact that I've got a tilt swivel screen. And that's great, but as a stills photographer, it's a bit of a mess. You've got to sort of pull it out and swivel it around and try and then it makes it big. So things like the old flip screen, which used to be on my EM1 Mark I, was fabulous. Now, I have seen a camera, I'm trying desperately to remember what it was, but I have seen a camera where you've got the tilt swivel screen, but also the ability to tilt it up and down as well. That would be fantastic. So I want a combined tilt swivel and also flippable screen. That would be great for me to be able to, as a hybrid shooter, to be able to do both videos and stills. Now, I did hit about the body at the very beginning of this. Let's look back at the body of this. One of the things I really want, which most of my cameras have in fairness, is full weather sealing of a high standard. I want really good weather sealing on it so I can take it out in all weathers. Now, getting towards the end of this, don't forget, if you enjoy this video, please, there's a PayPal link if you'd like to buy me a coffee. That's just there. And also, there'll be a list of the names at the end. But if you're not a patron of the channel and you'd like to become a patron through Patreon, here's a link to my Patreon channel. Thank you to all of those who are. And as I say, there'll be a list of names at the end because you are fantastic. You really do keep the channel going between you and the people who do donations for the coffee, so thank you. So if you want to give a donation, and it's also in the comments below. Now, coming towards the end of this, I'm looking towards the SD cards, the memory cards on this one. Now, my GX8, if I want to have a look on there, I'm going to go in the battery box to find my SD card. I find that a pain. So what I would like is, on my idealized camera, and it's G8 style body, I would like the door to be on the side to be able to get to my SD card in there. I don't need two SD cards. I really don't. I've had so few problems in this way that I shoot. I don't need two SD cards, but I do need a good, easy to get SD cards so I can change them. And I also need them to be UHS 2 so that I can actually get high-speed connectivity and high-speed data read and write speeds to it. So a UHS 2 card in the side, please. And while we're on the back, there's two things that I really want. Please, Lumix, make sure that I don't keep on hitting the buttons accidentally for the display or whatever. So I want slightly better button layout, but or slightly better shielding for the buttons so they can't be accidentally pressed. But also, while we're on the back there, give me a joystick. Give me the G9 type joystick for my change my focusing point. Makes a big difference. I'm not worried about a top screen. I really don't worry about it having the top screen like on the G9. I rarely use it. I thought when I came from full frame Canons, I thought a top screen was going to be the winner for me on the G9. I rarely use it. The rest of the camera is so good, so I don't need a top screen, but I do need that little joystick on the back. It really is a bonus for me as a shooter. And the final thing on this one, for my idealised camera for 2023, the GX8, as I say, is a fantastic body, but the one thing that I don't have for this is a battery grip. So if you're going to do this, make a battery grip which is available for the GX8 as well, or for the new camera, should we say, for my 2023 camera. Make sure it's got a battery grip available. Two reasons. I do tend to shoot quite a lot in portrait mode if I'm doing stills, and that battery grip really does make a difference if you're shooting portrait mode. And the other thing is, quite often if I'm out and about, having that second battery without having to think about changing it and things, just carry on shooting will give me a much better experience, especially if I'm doing video. I don't have to worry about changing the battery and the shot going down and halfway through and having to work out which bits I did get and didn't get because my battery's gone. So the idea of that is fabulous. So please, a battery grip. But don't forget, let me know in the comments below as to what you would like to see in your perfect camera for 2023. I'm really interested to hear what your views are. Are any of the things that I've said here key points for you? Are there things that I've said here which just do not interest you whatsoever? It's bound to. It's going to have to be that. But let me know in the comments below. But until then, whichever camera you're using, whether it's your idealised one or the oldest camera going, so long as you're taking great photographs and enjoying your photography, that's the main thing. So keep taking those photographs and keep having fun with the photography. Bye bye.